I would call to order the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Committee, April 13th meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Van Buren is here. Commissioner Anton?
Here.
Commissioner Pill?
Here.
Commissioner Fleet?
Here.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Here.
And Chairman Richard?
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you would please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. While I have you all standing, please, if you would, anybody who's going to give any testimony tonight, you have to be sworn in. So if you'll follow me, I swear that any testimony I give this evening shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Okay, and I would ask at this time that you silence all of your cell phones, pagers, etc. First order of business is approval of the minutes of our March 9th meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anton, was that?
Motion by Commissioner Pill, second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Pass. Okay, under new business, planning and zoning item 11-014. Catherine Schwab with Mike Matheson of Pacific Construction Group regarding the property located at 315 South Grant for the following. A, zoning code variance request to permit lot coverage greater than the 35% maximum allowed in the R3 single-family detached residence district for the purpose of constructing a new home. If you would, and if you would please sign in.
It's Scott Matheson, not Mike, just for the record.
Now, before you begin, one of the requirements, the most important requirements for any variance is a hardship. So if you would please delineate your hardship to us.
Sure. I represent my client, Kathy Schwab, in designing and constructing the single-family residence that's proposed on the lot of 315 South Grant. About a year ago, Kathy had come to us to actually look at a couple of different lots in the town, right around the Grant Street. Local family lives within a couple of streets of this address. And we at that time, along with our architect, had contacted the village to find out what the probability of the type of home and the type of exterior living that you actually wanted to have would fit the requirements. We actually looked at about 3 lots, and with the lot coverage scenario of 40% at that time, eliminated the 2 of the lots out of the 3 that we were looking at. Kathy actually purchased the lots in early 2010 and May 2010, and proceeded to actually design the home right around the, I think, November timeframe. And at that time, we had our architect communicate with the city according to what lot coverages that we have to abide by, single family, in general, that was kind of the leading design criteria on what you wanted to do with a first floor master and accommodate an exterior pool. We then actually got into the final design stage right around January, referring back a couple times to the website to verify, different items that we were including. And at that time, the architect had a question. We employed a landscape architect to actually design some of the outside work. And at that time, we were informed that the change had been made from 40% down to 35%. So at that time, we went through a couple design options about eliminating some of the house, shrinking down the house, shrinking down some of the interior, and it basically didn't make the house work or eliminated the pool in the backyard, which ultimately was what Kathy had bought this lot for. Just with a lot that is surrounded by property, it's of course got the street in front, the 2 side yards, and the backyard are all bound by owners from the adjacent properties. To add additional property wasn't an option, and the hardship was basically we were trying to abide by all of the requirements at the time the lot was purchased, including through the design. Ultimately, if the pool was the deciding factor that it could not be actually covered underneath the existing ordinance, the option of going to a less expensive lot to just have the house and home she would like, or to go and search for a larger property would have been an option prior to actually purchasing the lot. So the hardship is we're not able to expand to incorporate and accommodate the going to the new 35%, but we are asking for the variance of going back to the original, what we thought was the 40%.
So then if I may sum it up for everybody, you bought the lot when we allowed 40%. You designed the home for the 40%, and then at the very last minute, Westmont adopted a new ordinance, changing it down to 35%.
Correct.
Just at about the time you were ready to build.
Correct.
Okay. The house you've designed right now that you've got in front of us, would that fit the 40%?
That fits 40%.
Okay. All right, is there anybody from the public who will speak on this? Please, if you would, come up and give your name and sign in.
My name is Debbie Olmstead, and we just, we're neighbors, and we just wanted to be able to see the plan. We've never seen anything. We don't know. We're concerned about drainage and, you know, that type of thing. So that's what we thought the hearing was about, was how large it was going to be and if it was going to affect any water problems with our home, because we don't have any right now. So that was our concern.
Could you perhaps put some drawings up so they can view that on the screen?
Do that.
Under the camera.
You'd need a transparency.
You can just set it right there.
See if that works.
Oh,
What am I looking at here?
So this is the front of the house? Are you one side or the other?
With this side.
Okay, so this side. So we actually, the driveway will be on the opposite side of the lot. The residence is here. The deck is in this location along with the pool.
okay. So you went with the 7 feet, which is 10% over the 10 feet, correct? 7 feet from our property to yours? And that's permissible?
And it's 8 feet on this side.
Okay. Driveway's where?
Right
Here.
Okay, on the other side. And have you allowed for drainage because of the pitch and everything?
We
And how far
have.
are you building that up?
Yeah, we have. We actually have to get I believe, a little bit higher. We have to accommodate a swale on our property. That by doing so, we actually have to step down the foundation in this corner to accommodate the drain flow coming from the backyard into the front. So we accommodate a full swale on our side of the property according to the city requirements.
Okay.
And the drainage is going to be from the back to the front?
That's what it's designed. It's in terminology called horseshoe drainage, which is how that's how the requirements are stated with the city to actually have that flow come from from the back to the front.
Because the angle's pitched this way, from the front street to the alley.
Yes, that's going to be out of my ability to be able to say exactly where it's going to pitch backwards. The design in general from the city is requiring us to have the swale on each side of the property to accommodate if the low point is somewhere in the backyard. I think this gentleman over here is actually a higher, his garage is actually higher, your side's lower, so there's going to be some water that will actually and does filter out of the property in the back now. That will continue to be the same portion of water is released to the back, but the reason why the side yards are what they are and the grade of what they are is to actually filter the water away from the backyard into the front.
Okay, so my question is, I guess, to the city and everybody, is if we do get water in our home, because we're looking to do some construction in the future, internal, if we do get water in our home, who's responsible for that?
Shannon, could you answer
Sure.
that?
Well, in addition to Mr. Matheson's testimony, the approval, any zoning approval would be contingent upon full engineering review and approval as well. So the plan will be carefully analyzed by our engineer, and it would be authorized by us prior to even issuing a building permit. Some of those issues will be hashed out if the zoning approval takes place, because this is more of a preliminary stage. But ultimately, the engineering is designed such that it is not to adversely impact the adjoining property owners per ordinance.
Is there such thing where there could be like an amendment or a letter from the owner or the builder that there would be a responsibility if we do get water? Because we do not get water now.
Their responsibility is to build the house in compliance with the codes and regulations of the village. So as Ms. Malik said, they're going to provide engineering that shows they comply with the ordinances and the regulations. That means no additional stormwater from what currently takes place on the property will flow overland onto your property. In fact, what we've seen is with most developments, with the swales and everything else, they actually lessen the flow of stormwater from one property to another. If it gets built and built according to plans and you suddenly have an increase in water, your remedy is, certainly you can contact the village and we can try and assist you in reviewing plans and an actual build-out, but your remedy is against your neighbor if they in fact violated the ordinances.
Okay. My girlfriend just went through this whole thing, and it was just a mess. Torrential thing just came in there. It was real similar, so that's why we're concerned. Is there anybody else that has any concerns or questions? Neighborhood people? What about you?
If you could come to the podium.
Again, if you would please sign in and give us your name.
Bill Turner, I'm an adjacent property owner. I guess my question, more than concern, is the village has reduced from 40 to 35% the buildable space, and there had to have been a reason for that. Does anybody here on the commission know what the reason was, why it was reduced? And I wasn't aware that it was reduced recently, and looking on the website, you couldn't tell that. So,
Shannon, would you care again?
Certainly. The village has undergone a village-wide comprehensive stormwater study over the last year, 18 months or so, and there have been certain potential remedies and locations within the village that have been identified. This particular area, I believe, is outside of what one of the key focus areas was from the study that Christopher Burke Engineering did. But overall, in order to address the perception of these increased flooding issues village-wide over time, the board did decide last November to reduce lot coverage for improving open space conditions and possibly helping to mitigate any potential for flooding in the future and bulk regulation perceptions as well. I don't know if John has anything more to add.
Nope, I think that's pretty much it. But to your point, there certainly are problematic areas within the village that have persistent flooding. The village is looking at and has performed a study so that infrastructure improvements can be made by the village to try and address those problematic areas. This is not a problematic area, but your concerns are nevertheless valid. No matter where you're located in the village, will adjacent development impact my home with stormwater runoff? And again, All we can say is we have regulations to prevent that. We do try and enforce that strictly. And if you run into a problem, it's either because the builder did not follow the regulations as built, even though the plan showed that they would, or, you know, I guess that would really be the only reason to change conditions over what you currently have.
And I have one other question. Has the village or will the village look at the impact on the drainage into the alley area, which is a problem at certain times of heavy rainfall and certain times of even heavy snowfall when it's melting, standing water, where the alley dirt and stone actually wash away to the end of the block, and you just have raw dirt and or less than accommodating conditions for people who have alley access to garages and things of that nature. Is the village planning on looking at that impact?
Well, again, the lot will be looked at comprehensively as a whole, and the existing conditions, whatever the existing condition is now, it cannot be worsened. And as Mr. Zemanek mentioned previously, generally speaking, once new construction takes place, it has improved in many locations within the village. So it can't get worse than what you have been experiencing per the regulations that are in place, but you may experience a benefit.
You won't know that, however, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You won't know that, however, until the house is in place. The vacant land has been now displaced by a huge building that no longer will allow drainage into a good 35 or 40% portion of that lot. The water has to go somewhere. The logical path of water is downhill, and that lot goes downhill towards the alley. So it would be a concern to neighbors, myself included, I would think, that we won't know this impact until after the house is in place and we have 1 or 2 major rainfalls. At that point, it's too late.
To speak to that point, the Village of Westmont's a partial waiver community. We're bound by the ordinances of DuPage County. We have to enforce those ordinances. So the plan that we approve for construction can't be approved if that condition were to be worsened. So I understand what you're saying, but we can't approve a plan that would create a situation that would exacerbate an existing problem.
Walks around the question, but I will just leave it at that. Thank you very much.
I do have a couple of quick questions.
Please.
My name is Eldon Olmsted, and I've already signed in. In terms of the pool, it appears to be what, an in-ground pool?
Correct.
Okay. Is that considered part of the 40% footprint?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense then. And my concerns are really around the drainage and the water, you know, and what it sounds like is that there's going to be an engineering study to follow this up. Do you know by chance when that hearing will be?
There's not a public hearing on the engineering study. The only public hearing is tonight on the variance. Okay. The village board will either approve or disapprove the variance. At that point, it's just a issuance of a building permit by staff, and part of that building permit issuance is review of all the detailed engineering and make sure that the engineering regulations are complied with. Mm-hmm. To the other gentleman's comments, you're right, you never really know until a building is built, but that's true with every development anywhere. You have to rely on the engineering's details and specs to see whether it complies with the ordinance, and then it's up to the builder to build it as they've designed it.
And I would think if you keep building within a village, you would have some precedent being set along the way.
If you would please step to the podium so the home audience could hear you.
If you, as a village, look at that over time, a precedent would be set in that you would have lots built with whatever size, whatever percentage used, and you would have some drainage issue that would either keep occurring or not keep occurring based on lot slantage and all of that. I would think some record, some history would be developed over time, and those in the engineering department, I assume, would be privy to that. Maybe it's a bad assumption.
Well, I think the probably is a bad assumption. I think there's the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance that we're charged to enforce. We follow those engineering regulations. If those regulations are poor, then it's a matter of lobbying DuPage County to get them to make them more strict. They're actually currently studying their regulations, and they probably will become more strict, but they're comparatively,
Pretty strict.
they're really strict right now.
Really strict. And I can say my house was built in '07, and both neighbors next to me are built in 1940, and their water runs to my swales and then out the back. So I don't bring anything to them. They bring it to me because their yards were built, like I said, in the 40s and 50s. They didn't know what they were doing then, if you ask me. So now if my house is the newer one there, all the water runs around it and runs back on my swales. But I don't charge them anything for that.
Well, I understand because we have a drainage issue with our neighbor's lot onto us, and it's our problem to deal with. And if we fix that problem, it'll be the neighbor's problem to deal with, and so on and so forth. That's just how the law is written. I understand that. Don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what we all have to, as citizens, abide by. Therefore, that's why I was here, to just address those concerns, and most of them have been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. We'll start with Commissioner Fleet.
So, let's see, first of all, how long has the lot been vacant?
Do you have any idea?
Well, I purchased it from a builder who I understood had torn down the existing home there. And I think he only had it for a few years. Maybe the neighbors have a better idea of when exactly it was torn down. But I'd say within the past 5 years.
Okay. Next, tell us about the deck that you're looking at putting on here. Has there been any consideration to construct it in a way that you could take advantage of spacing between the boards or so to eliminate, or, to gain back some of the coverage?
The deck itself, well, according to, yes, we can actually space it out, but according to the regulations, deck square footage is considered a certain ratio of lot coverage square footage. So as far as presenting it in that form or in that way, I don't know how we would actually do that. The deck itself was to accommodate some of the groundwater. That whole deck is actually raised up because of the existing levels of grade to the two neighbors. So it's more of a lookout basement, partial lookout basement from the drainage actually comes from the south to the north, kind of on a slant. So we actually designed a deck rather than a concrete patio to actually create and help alleviate the drainage without causing, a problem with the two neighbors and things of that nature. So the deck itself is actually had a concept of alleviating the water, and we haven't gone, we haven't presented any additional spacing between the deck.
Underneath the deck, is it going to be, is it earth, or it's not?
We'll probably do stone and then earth, just to accommodate some of the weed growing in there. But it will not be any concrete patio underneath or any hard surface of that nature. So it'll probably be, well, how we have it designed is it'll be earth, felt to help accommodate some of the weed growth, and then stone or crushed stone on top of that.
Okay, no further questions.
Commissioner Fidesco?
I think it looks good, and I understand your plight, as far as the 40% goes. The pool, I'm just kind of concerned. It's an in-ground pool. Is there a system that's basically, for safety reasons, that covers it, and because this is a northern climate, and we obviously, it's not going to be used in the wintertime.
Sure. We do have a fence around the perimeter of the property with this pool grade fence for the certain height that's required to at least keep the smaller kids or people out of that area. We haven't actually looked into a pool cover as far as general statement, pool covers, as far as sometimes probably debated, but cause potentially more harm unless it's a hard cover. Because some of the actual lighter weight coverage that pin down, there's been more problems with people getting in that, it coming unstrapped, and then you get tangled up in actually the webbing. So that is something, as far as covering the pool, we haven't considered doing any type of hard cover or hard surface on that.
Okay. Other than that, I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Van Buren?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you're kind of caught in this situation where you purchased the property, thought that you could build one thing, and then the ordinance was changed. It's also unfortunate that this was an attempt to begin to solve some of our water problems in certain parts of the village that really this is a factor. And while they did say there were some problems in the alley and so on there, this has not been a targeted area for that. And but for that, you wouldn't even be here. So I really have no problem as long as you read all the ordinances and so on.
Commissioner Anton?
I don't have any problems either. I'm looking at this, your walk is 3 foot, you've got your driveway chopped a little bit to save. The pool's not that big, and you've got a 2.5 foot walk around it. Looks like you're trying to keep things smaller to try and comply as much as you could. Original plan, seems like, so.
Exactly.
I don't see it as being a problem at all.
Commissioner Pilt?
Thank you. I just want to recap something, and can you just tell me if I'm correct in my assumption here? So right now, with no building on the property, it's all draining, based on what I heard from the neighbors, back towards the alley at this time.
Current drainage is, there's a swale or a low spot in the back that kind of bellies out. Probably from where, if you actually look at the neighbors and their existing houses, from that point in our yard, there's actually a low point in the middle of the yard, which could be accommodating some of the fill that they brought in. So I would imagine that in some aspects, the water's held on our property because both properties probably drain in, and that's where it pools, just from the grading and looking at the engineering that we have done. So eventually, there is some portion of the back of the water that would be released that is currently being released to the alley. I'm not sure exactly how much, just on general grading. You have a little slope toward the alley currently right now. And then the side yards are pretty much at grade with the two neighbors, along with probably the front half of the lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because in looking at the property, it looked like it sort of had a slight angle to it, and I thought it was all heading back. And then where I was going with this was that now if you put a home on the front half, and it sounds like from your engineering, with the horseshoe engineering, that you're going to take the front half, which you're now going to make it so that water can't soak in. Obviously, it's not going to go through the house. That's going to get all engineered to head towards the street into the storm sewer system. And the back half, which is undeveloped, is going to continue to move to the back as it is now. Is that correct?
That's in general with basically the communication we've had with the city as far as what they require. The survey we employed actually does work with Westmont, knows their requirements, and the actual flow of water, we're not going to be able to get the water to go uphill as far as the back going to the front. So the how we actually designed it with the horseshoe draining is basically that's the principle behind it, to get that water to flow toward the street to relieve some of the back water. But we're fighting street grade as far as what that existing point is from the backyard. So we actually, comes a point in the yard where the water can't get up over that curb. That's the portion that will go back.
So the back part where you're not building a structure is really going to remain unchanged. It's going to
Correct.
drain to the back, which is the point. The part where you're building the structure and covering up the property so that it can't soak in the water is going to, through horseshoe engineering, is going to move towards the street, the storm sewer section.
Including the drain tile system that would be around the actual home.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Commissioner Thomas?
No question.
And likewise, I can't agree with my fellow commissioners. More, I feel sorry for your plight. It's, you're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. And I would commend you from what I've seen on the plan. It looks like you're going to do a very nice project. We have a request for a variance, so we need findings of fact. May we have a reading, please?
Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. The owner purchased the property and designed a new home for the property in year 2010 in reliance on the zoning code regulations then in effect. The plans as drawn complied with the 40% lot coverage requirement then in effect. Prior to finalizing her plans and submitting for a building permit, the village amended the lot coverage requirements to 35%. Given the owner's investment in this property and in architectural services prior to this zoning code change, the owner cannot yield a reasonable return without this variance.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement.
Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The owner is unable to purchase adjacent property in order to eliminate this variance request. Design alterations to comply with the 35% lot coverage requirements are not feasible. The owner purchased this property and designed this home based on the zoning code regulations then in effect.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement.
Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed home with this variance complies with all setback requirements and complies with the 40% lot coverage requirement previously in effect. The size and design of the proposed home is consistent with surrounding development and will not cause undue stormwater runoff and will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. The findings of fact for a variance are hereby adopted. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Zoning code variance request to permit lot coverage greater than the 35% maximum allowed in the R3 single-family detached residence district.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Anton, seconded by Commissioner Van Buren. Question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Richard.
Yes. Okay, you have our recommendation. That's all it is a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, and staff will tell you when you'll go before, be scheduled to go before a committee of the whole on a Thursday evening.
For your time.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Planning and zoning item 11-015, James T. Kraus regarding the property located at 405 South Oak Avenue for the following. A, zoning code variance request to permit lot coverage greater than the 35% maximum allowed in the R3 single-family detached residence district for the purpose of constructing a patio. Mr. Kraus? Oh, all right.
I apologize.
Thank you.
It should come on in a moment, I think.
Okay. My name is Jim Kraus. I'm here because I like to build a patio. I have a copy of my presentation for all members of the commission. I'd also like to thank those members that stopped on, as well as the trustees, to review my situation.
Thank you.
His background, my mother inherited this house. My great uncle who died, he lived to be 99 years old.
You might want to wait till you get back to the podium.
The home audience cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. Hello to members of the home audience. My name is Jim Kraus. I'm here today because I'd like to build a patio. My mother inherited the property in Westmont in 2007 from my great uncle who passed away. He lived to be 99 years old. He had one son who died before him, who was a junk man. It's very true. There's a file in the city of Westmont that's approximately 2 inches wide, which shows the number of complaints on the property over the many years. I know it's not that relevant to show before and after, but I think it's very compelling. That's the side view, and there's a reason for the 8-foot tall fence that encompassed the backyard, because it was filled eye-high with stuff. There were 3 cars, a camper, a motorhome, a tractor, and there was only a small area this wide to get from the front of the fence to the backyard. I hadn't been to the house since about 1969 when I was little. And my mother inherited it. I opened the gates, and it was like, oh my gosh, now what do we do? So I started to help her clean it up. That's after we removed a lot of stuff out of the backyard already. I filled up 20 40-yard dumpsters of stuff. I filled 2 semi-truckloads full of scrap steel. My family and I, we did all this together on the weekends. It was a full-time, part-time job. I used to live in Rockford, and I do all my business in Chicago. I commuted from Rockford to here for 9 years. After I saw the ground, I decided to buy it for my mother. These are the plans I submitted in August 2008 by a licensed Illinois architect that was approved by the group. The plans I submitted included, I knocked out the whole back wall, made a modern kitchen, a rec room, and a garage. In order to have the size of garage I wanted, it had to be attached. So we did that. There's a picture of the foundation, and again, these were all approved within code by the city of Westmont. Completely gutted the entire structure, took the entire roof off, took everything down to the studs, all new mechanicals, all new plumbing, electrical, all brand new windows. And that's what it looks like today. In all sincerity, it was probably the worst house I'd ever seen in my whole life here in the city of Westmont. And I'm pleased to live there now. There's a picture of the side view. All the materials I used were the best. It's not vinyl siding, it's weatherboard cement. Project specifications. All the dimensions I have here are off the blueprints. And I would say the biggest discrepancy we have is the size of my driveway. But again, the driveway was included on the original plans when they were submitted. The original size of the original house is 1,111 square feet. The garage, which is an addition, is 662 square feet. The rec room is 280 square feet. The kitchen, I didn't include that when I made my original proposal to request a permit because I forgot I blew out the back wall and added that space. The driveway, I just looked at it and ballparked it, and it's 8 foot wide by 80 feet long, but it's actually 2 different sections of 10 feet by 106 and 10 feet by 46, which equals 1,520 square feet. And that was included in the proposal. So as it is measured is 3,800 square feet. The size of the lot is 8482, and that covers 44.8% of the property. When I did my planning and drawing with the architect, we planned for a side yard patio, and that was included in this as well. And I started running out of money after doing all of this, and I wanted to build the patio now. As it is, egress from the kitchen would be 2 steps down, and there's nothing there. And the egress from the rec room is a step down, it's just a pit of mud. So basically, I want to complete what I started. Just taking a look at the grade, my neighbor on the north is about a foot lower, and my neighbor on the south is about a foot higher. At this time, I've lived there for almost 2 years, and there are no rainwater issues or any type of problem such as that. That's where the proposed patio would go. That's the side
Please,
yard.
sir, the home audience cannot hear you.
Welcome back. The side yard, the view that you see there, the dirt at the end is where the proposed patio would go. And that's looking out from the kitchen, again, where I'd plan to put the patio. Here's a copy of the blueprint that shows the entire issue that we're discussing now as far as lot size coverage that was approved by the city of Westmont. In fact, when I went to go get the permit, they looked at the address and everybody on the staff came out and applauded me. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody from the public who will speak on this, either for or against? If you would, just give your name and sign in.
I'm Tina Paulus.
I'm Andrew Paulus, we are his neighbors, and let me emphasize, when we first moved in, we moved in for One Oak, which was right next to him. It's a good thing we didn't see that yard when we moved in. It was not good, but what he's done with this is just amazing. I mean, I was afraid of stuff coming over, you know, wildlife, whatever, but it's definitely I think it's probably one of the best houses on our street, what he's done with it.
And I look at the amount of work that he's put into this and the improvement, and we're the neighbors to the north, by the way. And just, I don't see, you know, I don't foresee how it would be a drainage problem, but a small patio would really improve the hot lot. And again, it's a million times better than it was before he did all the work. So we just kind of want to encourage him and support him.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the public who will speak on this? We'll close the public comment. I do have one question, and as you're asking for a variance, but you are significantly over the 40% right now.
4.8%.
You obviously know what you're doing. Did you not realize this at the time, even though the village failed to see what you were building?
I honestly don't think so, sir. When I submitted my plans, they were approved. We knew about the 40% lot coverage rule.
Who built your plan? Who designed your plans?
An engineer in Rockford, Illinois.
Did he not inquire as to what our building requirements were?
He certainly did. Yes, he did, sir. And it was 40% lot coverage.
Yes, but from what I'm reading, you are far in excess of it right now.
According to my measurements, which I put in my presentation, it's 44-point-something%.
We got 57.
I disagree with the 57.
We would need a survey to get that number with any certainty.
Okay.
Those were scaled dimensions.
Shannon, could you help us perhaps on this? Where are these conflicts of these numbers then coming from?
Well, I'm not sure what drawings were used for that, but the discrepancy was noted in the field by staff, and then we used Google imagery basically to scale it off as best as we could, because currently the plan documents that the petitioner has in his hands, we have sent to our electronic scanning company. We do that periodically. We basically the equivalent of microfiching documents, so we do not have access to them within the department. So that's what I'm assuming you used to run your calculations. Ours were scaled off based on the previous plat of survey and then what appeared to be the field dimensions. So there could be some discrepancy in the number, but I don't think that it would be as significant. What was the number that you had suggested?
It was 44%.
44. Ours with the proposed patio improvement was 57%. I'm not sure that it would be that significant of a difference.
Mr. Chairman? May I ask a question? With your 44.8%, that doesn't include the patio yet, right?
No, sir. The
So-
patio would be 464 square feet.
Which the quick math I just did would take it to 50.3% then, which would be a little closer to your estimated 57, which did include
Yes.
the patio. Okay, so you're at 44.8 now.
Yes, sir.
Going to 50.3 by my simple math. And so somewhere between 50 and 57% with the patio is the coverage. I just wanted to make sure I had the right number.
Thanks for that, Greg. Okay, let's start with Commissioner Thomas.
Okay, can I ask a question first?
Please, John.
Were you saying that we have as-built drawings, they're just not on site because they're on microfiche?
Right.
And when the applicant came in, did he provide any as-built drawings so you guys could sit down and
The
try and work
drawings that
this
were
out?
provided were the plat of survey from the existing, the home before the improvements with the scaled addition of the new garage and the new rec room, which the 2008 plans were approved for. So all improvements other than the driveway were drawn on the plan that was turned in as a site plan.
As an engineered drawing, or?
No, as a sketch site plan. It's in your packets.
I saw that, I was just wondering if there was
No blueprints.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas?
So when the drawings that were submitted are considered sketch, not architectural, right?
Correct, right. It's a sketch site plan.
And on that basis, the petitioner was told that everything was all right, or he could go ahead. Is that what I'm hearing?
When I submitted my
No.
original plan in 2008, which included the patio, it was approved. Yes, sir.
And that was architectural or
Correct.
drawing?
Yes.
That was
Those are
architectural.
architectural plans,
With,
right.
without the driveway? Or with the driveway?
The driveway is on the original drawings, yes, sir.
Okay, and you were told everything is fine then,
Yes, sir.
at that time?
Yep, I remember having a conversation with Steve Watson and Mike that it was under the 40%.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Commissioner Pill?
Yeah, this is a fairly large-scale deviation, and even the drawing that we have in our package here is incomplete as far as, well, I think you indicated that you added the kitchen at a later time, which is
No,
not.
the kitchen was all done simultaneous. Everything was done all at once. All the excavating was done.
So the kitchen is on those blueprints?
Yes, sir, it is. What used to be the kitchen became the dining room, and I went out to put a modern kitchen in.
And Greg, so I can clarify, so the 2008 plans, as submitted and approved, actually showed a lot coverage of maybe close to 50% because it included the patio, and you got a permit for that from the village.
Yes, sir, I did.
And now you never built the patio at the time.
Correct.
So you're at, according to your calculations,
44.8.
somewhere around 44%. Staff thinks it might be more, but again, we ballparked it. So we don't know how that permit got issued with the 40% lot coverage in place at the time.
Probably busy.
John, I mean, I was heading right to that same direction. I mean, how do we look at this then? Because this would almost seem to be inaccurate. We don't have access to that.
Yeah.
You may have this.
Well, I'm not so sure that that's,
It sounds like we have it on microfiche off-site, so we could probably pull it up if we wanted to,
It's
or get a
being
copy of those. I mean, here's what I think some of your options are. One, you can postpone this public hearing until another date so that staff can look at the plans and determine with certainty what the existing lot coverage is and what it would be with the patio, if you're really concerned about the numbers. When you look at, well, what are your options? Let's say it's over. Whatever the number turns out to be, the fact is the gentleman received a permit that exceeded the lot coverage. where does that put the village and where does that put the applicant? On one hand, an applicant is charged with building to code, and a village is, while we're supposed to enforce the codes, if a permit is inadvertently or mistakenly issued and they still go ahead and disregard the requirements, he can be held after the fact to have to come back and comply with the lot coverage. The village has that authority under Illinois case law to enforce that. On the other hand, owners would make an argument that the village waived the right to enforce the lot coverage because they saw the plans, they issued the permit. And it's not really clear cut what the end result would be under existing law.
The other option is that we're a recommending body, so this would all probably come, all these plans would appear or come out of storage or wherever they're at by the time it went to the village board also. Because they would have final say on this anyway.
They do have the final say, and right, as you said, we're somewhere between probably 50 to 57%. I don't know if we can get the plans.
Commissioner Pill, our job is to decide this here and now and not push off the work onto the village board. They're supposed to get our recommendation. And part of what John was, if I may, part of what John was saying, what I'm seeing here is incomplete data. We don't have access to these blueprints. If they are signed, stamped, I would like to see them. I think staff should have this information, and then we can get a new packet delivered to us, perhaps at another meeting. Right now, I'm leaning toward postponement. There's just too great of a conflict between these numbers, and I can't make a rational decision. But I believe that it is this board's responsibility. I don't want to abdicate that responsibility to the trustees. I don't know. What do my fellow board members think?
I agree with you, but that we should have the entire picture in front of us before we make any recommendation. We need to have those stamped drawings.
These are the drawings which were submitted, and you can do the math.
My opinion is this. We may come up with a 1 or 2% variance between our estimated calculation based on what you said and what they have. That's not going to make a whole lot of difference. What we're really dealing with is a staff that approved everything that he's asking for. And because he didn't get the patio built right away, if he'd have done it, we've never seen this, and it wouldn't be an issue. So, are we going to cover for our staff and go ahead and let him proceed, or are we going to nitpick and go and get drawings and sit here and do it, and he still have to make the same decision later? That's my feeling.
I agree with Wally.
I can go with 50%, but I can't go with 57%, because then I'm gonna want it. And then everybody's gonna want it. Hate to say it, that's what's gonna happen. So you prepare yourselves for the onslaught.
Yeah, but the caveat here with the onslaught is that we got something that was granted.
Because the village made a mistake doesn't make it that it's
That makes
the
it right.
precedent then, you know, I mean, you do.
It's not precedent. This is what happened on this occasion, and this will be independently looked at this time, and it has no bearance on the next case.
If I didn't hear the attorney correctly, case law would state that even though the village mistakenly issued a permit, it behooves the applicant to build according to the codes then in effect. Is that correct, John?
Correct.
So therefore, the onus could be put back on him.
The village could choose to or choose not to. He also said that.
Is there any chance that at that particular time, a different formula was used for, I mean, why would they, and again, none of us were there, but why would the comment be made that this met the 40% coverage?
It doesn't look like it meets it right here.
I submitted the plans in June 2008, and they were approved in August.
Well, approved is one thing, maybe somebody didn't even look at that, but did you say that somebody actually said to you it meets
Yes.
40%
Yes.
coverage?
I had the dialogue with Steve Watson.
I mean, it's almost like the entire driveway was missed or something like that. I mean,
See,
that's the
I'm
only
having
way.
trouble, staff has prepared a document for us in our briefing packet, which alludes to almost 57% if this is granted. And I've got a gentleman in front of me that's alluding to, he meets a 40%. There's too much of a deviance here, and I don't have enough hard facts. What does this building measure? What is the lot coverage?
Well, I think he's admitted to 44.8, and if you throw the new
Yes,
patio
but
on, it's about.
but he is not an architect, or nor is he a surveyor. I'd like to see a survey made of this with the exact dimensions on it, compare it, and then we'll see exactly what the lot coverage is. We can make an intelligent decision. Until then, I'm just guessing.
Are those the as-built plans, or are those the plans that were submitted for the permit?
Plans submitted for the permit and as-built. See, where I stand right now, I fall out in the mud pit. If I were to try to sell the house, which I don't plan on doing, I want to live here for 11 years and then move south, you know, I have this burden of just a little muddy mess there. You know, my options are to cover it in grass or put stone there, but I think that would look silly and not be very comfortable. And sincerely, you know, regarding water, which is, you know, one of the significant issues, there are no problems with drainage in my neighborhood, with my neighbors or surrounding people respectively.
I have a question. Can you please come to the podium?
This is my
Sign
daughter,
it.
Rachel.
Sign in and give your name if you would, please.
I'm Rachel Kraus. My question is, if we have the as-built and as proposed and approved dimensions here, which he's willing to give to you guys, why are we also then quoting and referencing a 57% coverage based on a Google search?
Because he didn't present those plans with his submission, and possibly the village didn't ask for them. He submitted a hand sketch with the village accepted, and so the village based that 57% on whatever information they could obtain. It was a hand sketch, I think, in Google.
With a site inspection and aerial imagery, I think that there were some notations on the site plan that were turned in with some inaccurate numbers as well.
So the options, I think, that staff were presented with were, you know, the village tries to do a good job of, when an application comes in like this, process it as quickly as we can and get you to a public hearing so you can get your project built if possible. And I think that's what was done. It's kind of blown up a little bit. Staff could have said, hold on, we're going to hold the horses, bring in your as-built, or let's pull up the microfiche, we're going to delay this for a month. You know, they try to process probably as a courtesy to you, but now it's kind of, probably as you dug into it, you realize this is a bit of a mess.
And part of my ignorance, because I'm by no means qualified to speak to any of this, but the microfiche documents, are those that exact set of documents? It's just in a database?
They're actually being processed. They're not even
Okay.
accessible to us right now because an outside company has them, puts them into the system, then returns everything to us. So they're not on site here right now, unfortunately.
Are they in
But it's
fact
the same
different, or are they
document.
the
It should be
same?
exactly what they have
Okay.
sitting right there. Is that the one that was signed by Mr. Watson?
No, I assume you have that one.
The one issued back to you should have also been signed. There should be an approval.
This isn't the copy.
Can I borrow these and return them? Okay, let's just do that.
And then just out of curiosity, they're not here because they're being evaluated, or they're just being documented so that they're official?
This is
And on-
probably the first and only time this will ever happen or has ever happened, but, you know, every 18 months or so, the village goes through a process of organization, and these particular files were sent with a batch of other building permit files that are being essentially scanned electronically to eliminate the paper, so.
I got nothing else. I just was wondering some stuff.
Okay, we'll start again with the commissioners. Commissioner Thomas,
What are we doing here?
do you have any further questions?
No, as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about a patio here.
Right.
And I still agree with Wally. That's all I have.
Commissioner Pill.
Now, I understand that there's a discrepancy on the numbers and things like that. It is a basic patio, and I know that you've done a great job of improving the neighborhood, and you're to be commended for that. I have no further questions.
Commissioner Anton.
I don't know, it seems like 57%, if that's true, I like to see the number be real. If I had a real number in front of me, I could sit here and say, yes, it's 50% by what they drew, I'm okay with that. The guy did a great job, took care of the place, cleaned it up, made it a better member of the neighborhood. But if that is 57%, I'm not signing my name to it. I'm not.
Commissioner Van Buren.
I have no more to say.
Commissioner Fidesco.
I kind of concur with Commissioner Anton that if it was closer, if the reality is it's closer to 50%, I'm inclined to say yes. But if it's closer to 60%, I'm inclined to say absolutely not. With the understanding that there was some either mistakes made on the part of the village or negligence, I guess, if you might call it that. But somebody made an error, whoever that might have been. But you were issued a permit. And you were, you know, if I'm in your shoes, I'm thinking, gee, you know, I have what I need, and I just ran out of money, so I didn't get it done. So now I'd like to finish it. But, you know, realistically, if it goes towards 60%, I mean, I can't see allowing that.
In my heart of hearts, sir, it is 44.8%. Okay?
And that's 44.8 or 6, whatever it was.
Yes, sir.
Without the patio.
Correct.
With the patio, if that gets it to 50%, I'm still inclined to say, okay, in this circumstance, not in any other. So that's my opinion at this time. So I would like to delay until we can get the correct drawings to look at.
Commissioner Fleet.
I'd like to see some hard numbers.
Does this
For
mean
both sides,
Does this mean that I have to pay for a survey now?
Well, we've got two options. One, we can rely on those plans. Those were not the plans that are signed off on by the village, so it's possible they could have changed. Is that?
No.
These don't have the signature, they may be the same, but we can wait to see when we have our files back, we can compare the two. I talked to them today and they're in process on the job. I'm not certain how long it will take.
Longer than a month?
We can pull on them to get it back within that time frame.
I can also swear that the plans haven't changed, Shannon, from the ones I submitted to that copy right there.
Well, at the very least, we have those plans to
Right.
rely on.
Right.
Hopefully, I would think the company would do their job within a month by the time this comes back. You know, if there are those inclined to postpone this, you can make a motion to postpone until the next meeting and see if it carries the day.
That's what I'm going to ask for.
And then if that fails, then there'll be a vote on it.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to postpone this until our next scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Anton, seconded by Commissioner Fidesco. Question on the motion, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
No.
Commissioner Van Buren votes no. Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, so this will be postponed until our next scheduled meeting. Perhaps you can get together with staff and between you can agree as to the correct dimensions.
Sure.
And then we can make an intelligent decision.
When would the next meeting of this board be?
Second.
May 11th, I believe.
Second Wednesday.
And for the public hearing will be continued until May 11th at 7 o'clock. There will be no new publication in the newspaper or no notice sent out to the surrounding property owners like there was the first time. Because if you're here and interested, you know what's going on.
How about the front yard? Excuse me.
The agenda will be posted, though, and actually, we published the agenda, so that will be available to alert you.
What about the front yard sign?
That'll be picked up tomorrow, I believe.
See you in May.
Well, I look forward to it, sir. Next item, planning and zoning item 11-016. Christopher M. Kazor of IMS and J. Riordan of Riordan Signature Homes regarding the property located at 9 and 11 West Quincy Street for the following. Zoning code variance request to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls.
No, it's just
Hello.
Good evening. Is it Kazor or Kazar?
Kazor.
Kazor? I've just been made aware that you got here a little late, so I have to swear you in, if you would. So any testimony I give this evening shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. Again, since we are asking for a zoning code variance, would you specifically, address the hardship? So, the floor is yours.
I'm addressing that.
Either one of you.
Documentation that outlines that. I'm sorry, I thought Fred was here to kind of help us do that, but he called me and said he was going to be in Springfield.
Perhaps Shannon could help you then.
Jay, if you just want to briefly explain why you're here this evening, and then I could address specifically some of the unique factors that the chairman has asked about.
I have a 10,000 square foot.
If you would
10,000 square foot building at 11 West Quincy. IMS is looking to rent or lease the second floor, and we have a limited amount of parking spaces, and we are looking to increase the amount of parking spaces through, go ahead.
The number of parking spaces that are required for offices is a set number determined by the code. In the case of general or professional offices, it's one space for every 275 square feet of floor area. In this case, the building, excluding mechanical area, hallway, bathrooms, that kind of thing, the second floor has a net of just under 3,000 square feet, which has a parking requirement of about 11 spaces. Behind the building, they have 4 spaces, so there's a technical shortage of about 7. It's our understanding that Mr. Kaiser plans on having 25 full-time employees, and in order to accommodate those employees in that location, he has spoken to both the village board at a previous meeting about his development permit request and the village clerk's office about securing parking permits to utilize some of the underused employee parking for downtown employees that's just west of Village Hall on West Quincy here. The unique factors that seem to be present appear to be the fact that the property was developed in the 20s, which was really around the time of the onset of the automobile, so they don't really accommodate the way they're built out lot line to lot line for much parking. There's not really an opportunity to acquire additional property because it's adjacent to the right-of-way, the rail station, and a public alley. In addition to that, the petitioner, Mr. Kazor, has had a business in operation within the village of Westmont on 63rd Street for how long now?
Since 2004.
Okay, so he's been in business for a number of years. He's been a great patron or a community member for all that time. He'd like to keep his business local. He'd like to keep his employees within the village of Westmont. And by bringing those 25 employees, he would also be improving some vitality in downtown Westmont, get some people in the restaurants during lunch hours. And some of those folks, it sounds like, may actually be able to use public transportation, which would be in accordance with our TOD plan and our downtown strategies over the last few years. So with that, I'll turn it back to you folks if you have any other things that I may have missed.
What she said.
Excellent job.
Why improve on excellence, right?
That's right. Good.
Okay, is there any public comment? Close the public comment. Let's start with Commissioner Fleet.
Well, I would certainly like to see that building filled, as you're saying, and I think our city ordinance have a way to get parking taken care of, and with the parking permit.
The village designated public parking areas for downtown employee parking. They come into the clerk's office by a permit, and there's plenty of available spaces for this business's employees.
Okay. I have no questions.
Commissioner Fidesco?
As far as, I think it's a great idea to get somebody in that space. The other thing is, Mr. Kazor, I was on the village board when you opened up your business on 63rd, and I was there when you had your open house, and I was really impressed. And I would really like to see you stay in town, you know. So if there's an opportunity to get these permits, I think it's a great idea to have you stay here, and I'd be willing to vote for this.
Commissioner Van Buren?
I agree. You've been a good citizen to the village and a good neighbor, and would like to keep you. And as long as you can put up with all the hardships with the parking, you'll have a nice building to work in.
Commissioner Anton?
No questions. Good luck.
Commissioner Pill?
I support this. Good luck.
Commissioner Thomas?
Good luck.
And I wish you the best of luck also. I have no questions whatsoever. Since we have a zoning code variance, we need a reading of the findings of fact.
Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it is located. Consistent with other buildings in the central business district, the property is built out to a 0 lot line on 3 sides and contains only 4 off-street parking spaces. Public parking is available to accommodate the tenants, employees, and customers. Virtually any use of the 3,978 square foot second floor space would not be permitted without a variance for off-street parking, and therefore the property cannot yield a reasonable return without this variance.
Agree with this, please raise your hand. Unanimous in agreement?
Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. There is no adjacent land for purchase for additional off-street parking, and the public parking is available for the tenants, employees, and customers.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement.
Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Most new uses and new development within the central business district are unable to provide adequate off-street parking. However, a parking survey conducted by the Village of Westmont demonstrated that there is available public parking for employees and business patrons. Accordingly, granting this variance will not adversely affect surrounding properties or change the character of the central business district.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. The findings of fact for a zoning code variance are hereby adopted. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, Planning and Zoning Item 11-016, a zoning code variance request to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fidesco, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. All right, sir, you have our recommendation, and staff can tell you when you'll go before a Thursday evening committee of the whole. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Planning and zoning item 11-017, Anita Thomas of McDonald's Corporation regarding the property located at 31 East 63rd Street for the following. A, zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs. B, zoning code variance request to increase the maximum square footage of signage. Good evening.
Good evening. You saved the best for last. I'm Anita Thomas. And I'm Elaine Kint with Kint & Associate, a consultant for McDonald's. And we've been here McDonald's has been in Westmont for 27 years. So we beat them by 2 years, didn't we? Right? Oh. Let me start with, why is it not? Oh, it's not plugged in. McDonald's is looking to remodel the existing McDonald's on 63rd Street. And we've had a long-standing relationship with the citizens of Westmont, and we'd like to continue it. But, you know, to meet and to increase our business, we would like to remodel. And we face many challenges with the remodel project. One of them is the signage. Right now, we have 8 signs on the site, and we are requesting 7. And I can show you, here's the existing building, okay? And McDonald's is, right now, you can see on the buildings on the side, it's kind of hard to see that, the existing, it's a mansard roof, okay? The whole site, the whole building is signage, okay? And with our new building, as you can see, it's much more upscale and modern. It has EFS, as you can see on the, and then we have, these are branding walls, so it kind of breaks up the building itself. So we have the McDonald's sign, we have the play place, we're going to continually have the play place. It'll be completely, the exterior will be remodeled and the interior partially remodeled, okay? And one of the other things is we want to enhance our business with the consumers. And McDonald's is going towards a dual drive-through, and this one will actually be a tandem drive-through. What happens is it's almost like 2 cash registers. Okay, so what happened, you have 2 people taking orders, and so it gets the people on the site and off the site much quicker. So what happens, it alleviates the stacking behind the ordering point. And so we are, one of the variances is we were asking for an additional menu board, and it's taken us over. And so that is just for McDonald's and the citizens of Westmont doing business together. One of the things is with the quick serve restaurant, what you're gonna find is people don't normally think, okay, I'm gonna go to McDonald's. They see the McDonald's sign and they turn in, okay? So signage is extremely important to McDonald's. And so with this remodel, we don't wanna go backwards, okay? We are reducing the overall signage from what we are existing. Right now, existing, I think, is like 330, let me see what it is, 329, and the proposed is at 270, which is a large increase, and we understand that. But we also understand, is it feasible for us to remodel this site if we can't keep what we have already? And so, in that area, majority of the other businesses have just as much signage as McDonald's does today. So anyway, what we're asking for is we want to increase the signage on the site. 1 is allowed. We were asking for 7. The square footage is 96 is allowed, and we're asking for 270. That was the code for today. If McDonald's, if we didn't want to remodel, we wouldn't be here. And so we're really asking for your help, is we don't want to have to go backwards. And we'd like to really remodel this for, it's a gorgeous building. It's gonna do a lot of wonders for the area as well. So, any questions?
Well, no public comments, so let's start with Commissioner Thomas, if you would.
What were the figures again, your increase in square footage?
It's actually a decrease.
It's a decrease in square footage. So we're existing right now is 329 square feet of signage. And we're going down to 270 square feet of signage.
So it's about 59, a little over 59 square feet.
But what is allowed is the 96. So.
Right, so you're coming down closer to what's.
Correct.
Right.
What's wanted.
Yeah, and as Elaine put it, we have an interesting little situation with our new design on our building. It's not a common design yet. It will be very common in the next year or two in the Chicagoland area. And we know that a lot of our customers are impulse, that they see the sign, they see the signage, they see the play place, things like that, and they go, whoa, okay, let's stop. It's time for a little snack. And that's where signage is so important to our business as a whole. So we definitely would like to, we don't need to go as high in signage-wise. I think that the designs that we have now for signage are much more up-to-date and look a lot nicer than what we presently have. And we'll play more to the neighborhood and still attract our customers.
Because I like the new design a lot.
Thank you.
And I think it's the first one in the Chicagoland area, isn't it? It's going to be built if we get approved. This one, the remodel?
Yeah.
Might be the first one, huh?
There's actually a play place building in Geneva that was on Randall Road that was done recently.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Pill?
When do you anticipate starting construction?
As soon as we get these approvals, we've already gone through the building permit process. The building permits are ready to be pulled. And per our standards, we want to have all permits in hand and accessible when we start construction so that we can do the job. I'm the area construction manager, so that we can start the project and complete it as quickly as possible. And we're looking at about a 6-week construction period.
Will the restaurant stay open?
Yes.
You mentioned that it's an entire exterior and a partial interior. What part of the interior is not being done?
On the interior, we're going to just be refreshing the dining room, because we did a re-image project on that about 6 years ago, give or take. So we're going to be updating it, some new graphics, some new paint colors, new pendant lights. The play place, however, is going to be completely remodeled. We're going to be putting in a brand new toy, all new seating, new graphics, new wainscot, things of that sort, and thoroughly updating that along with the bathroom in there. And then also in the dining room and on the site, our objective is to be completely ADA compliant too. So we'll be changing a vestibule, things of that sort.
I have no further questions. I would just like to compliment you on the package that you put together for us. Very easy to read and colorful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anton?
I'm totally against this. I'm kidding. Good, it looks good. I think that building needs to get worked on. It's, you guys know it's long in the tooth. Good luck with it, it looks good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Van Buren?
I would ditto that, yes. Good luck.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, even though you're just reducing a little bit of one sign and it's just a few square feet smaller than you had before, it dramatically looks less for some reason because of the white versus the darker exterior. So in my mind's eye, you've reduced it much more, so.
And there are certain elements that we've added to the building that really kind of help it as a whole and make it a little bit more cohesive. And for instance, one of the areas where we're putting signage on the back of the building, because we have so many people coming off of the access area, we want to say, hey, we're here. We respect you guys coming through the drive-through and seeing us too. So some nice elements.
Yeah, I really like the exterior. It's a nice store.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yeah, I like the package that you've presented, and I like the look of, the future look of that place, and it's sort of nice that we could be a first off in the Chicagoland area, and for people to see that.
Thank you.
I do have a question on signage. Your pre-sale board is going to stay, is that correct?
What we're doing at this particular location, and Shannon can speak to this also, is due to the water issues and storm drainage and things of that sort. To maintain what we've got, we are keeping one cell board, one menu board, and we're adding a second one, but just in a tandem line. So that will give us still the same idea of 2 order points, so that we don't have the excessive stacking out onto 63rd or around the building, and keep the movement of traffic. So that's where we end up with that larger square footage with the second menu board. So.
Then you're going to do away with the pre-sale board that's there now, is that correct?
I don't know, is there one there? Let me see. I'm gonna double. It's,
You have a pre-sale board that,
I never look at
it's on the west side.
oh, I
of
see
the-
it right there. Yeah,
believe that
they'd like to keep it, yes.
Really?
You're going to keep that
It's up to
too?
you, you decide, it's your
I'd have to
prerogative.
look at the site plan and see where we're at. I know that now we also have a height detector also that has some signage, so, which I don't know that those pre-sales really do terribly much.
There's one exemption allowed for menu board signage, so everything else was counted into the total, because you could have up to 50 square feet as an exemption for menu board information. So the rest, I believe, was included in that square
So
footage.
everything's been
Yes.
taken care of?
It appears that the pre-sale board is no longer there, according to the site plan.
Are you going to, you're going to redo the play area? Are you taking down the existing outdoor stuff, or is that going to be redone, or?
There is not any outside patio or toy. It's all enclosed.
Oh, is that all being redone, though?
On the interior, yes, it is.
Maybe you could donate that to our park district.
I don't think that, no. I don't think that you want it.
I have no further questions. Since we are asking for a variance, may we have a reading of findings of fact?
Criteria.
Increase the number of allowable signs.
Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. This restaurant has been existing since 1983 and contains 8 signs, where 1 sign is allowed by code. As part of the remodeling upgrades to this restaurant, the applicant proposes to replace 7 signs, thereby eliminating 1 sign from the current configuration. The signage is part of the applicant's corporate program alerts to the public to applicant's brand and various services options, and is consistent with the signage of surrounding businesses and restaurants. Applicant could not adequately identify and brand this restaurant without this variance.
Do you agree with this? Please raise your hand. Unanimous in agreement?
Criteria number 2, the plight of the owners due to unique circumstances. The current 8 signs are legal, non-conforming signs, and the applicant's proposing to eliminate 1 of these.
Do you agree with this? Please raise your hand. You are unanimous in agreement?
Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed new signage is tasteful and consistent with the number and size of signage programs for surrounding businesses in this area. The granting of this variance for signage will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. The findings of fact for a variation of variance are hereby adopted. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, Planning and Zoning, item 11-017, a zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, may we have a reading of findings of facts for a variance for square footage?
Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. This restaurant has been existing since 1983 and contains 8 signs totaling 329.6 square feet. As part of remodeling upgrades to this restaurant, the applicant proposes to install or replace 7 signs, thereby eliminating 1 sign from the current configuration and reducing the overall square footage of signage. The signage is part of the applicant's corporate program and alerts the public to the applicant's brand and various services and options, and is consistent with the signage of surrounding businesses and restaurants. Applicant could not adequately identify and brand this restaurant without this variance.
Do you agree with this? Please raise your hand. Unanimous in agreement?
Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The current 8 signs are legal, non-conforming signs regarding total square footage, and the applicant's proposing to reduce the total square footage of signage.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. Unanimous in agreement?
Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed new signage is tasteful and consistent with the number and size of signage programs for surrounding businesses in this area. The granting of this variance for signage will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. Unanimous in agreement? The findings of fact for a variance for square footage are hereby adopted. I will entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item B, a zoning code variance request to increase the maximum square footage of signage.
So moved.
Second.
That was motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Fidesco. Question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas? Yes. Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We really
ladies, you
appreciate it.
have-
Thanks.
Staff can tell you when you'll be scheduled for a Thursday evening committee of the whole.
Okay, thank you.
Staff have anything?
I just want to point out that we did pass out the 2011 zoning map this evening for your records, and I have nothing further.
Commissioners, anything to be brought up? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Van Buren, seconded by Commissioner Fidesco. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.